After being completely overlooked by Australian selectors for the opening test of the summer, 19-year-old Sam Konstas has put together the performance of a lifetime, smashing his way to a century against a fully fit Indian side on the weekend. Opening the batting in a special one-off fixture against India for the annual Prime Minister's 11 match, Konstas put on a show, smashing 15 boundaries on his way to a very impressive 107 runs. And he did all of this while the rest of the Prime Minister's 11 lineup collapsed around him. Excluding Konstas, the PM's 11 top 8 batsmen only scored 54 runs, all while Konstas was out here smashing incredible boundaries, including 2 ramp shots, which had the likes of Rohit Sharma bending over and laughing. There was a good article in the Indian Express where journalist Veera described his batting as not aesthetic. He was talking about how India's fielders found it amusing the way he was just smacking the ball, how aggressive he was. And to be honest, it is such an entertaining innings. I really highly recommend you watch it. I think this goes against the grain. Obviously, India hasn't seen a batsman like this, so it could be interesting to throw him in the mix in Australia's actual starting 11 lineup. But more importantly, I think what this shows is a level of aggression, but even more importantly, confidence that Australia really needs right now at the top of the order. For this guy to be only 19 years old, only having played a handful of first-class matches, to be going out and absolutely smoking a bowling lineup that cleaned up Australia's senior side only a couple of days earlier is a statement in itself. This match ended up with India winning, but Konstas' performance was so impressive, he still got player of the match for it, which I think is well deserved. Now, Konstas has to debut after a performance like this because right now, he's the only one who has runs within the last couple of months. So you have to play him. You have to reward that. And this is because Australia hasn't played any test matches since March. So they've had like this 8-month hiatus from cricket. Meanwhile, all the domestic cricket has been going on for a good time now. And this century against India in this Prime Minister's match is not only his only good performance. In the Australia A versus India A match, which was held way back on November 7th at the MCG, Sam Konstas was the only guy to get any runs of that. He got 73, I think it was, not out. And this is important because this match was set up to try and put all the potential batting replacements within the game, and Konstas was the only guy who really performed, yet the selectors ignored that. And that performance came after some very impressive performances in the Shield. There was one match in particular, Konstas hit 2 centuries within the game. I think he scored 257 runs against South Australia for New South Wales, opening the batting. And that came after he hit a half century in the previous match. So this guy's got runs as of in the last couple of months. And that is far more impressive than what Labuschagne and Smith provide. Because even though both have these fantastic resumes, some of the best cricket stats you will ever see in world cricket, but none of it's recent. Labuschagne last hit any runs back in like 2022. He has only hit 1 century since then. And Smith has been all over the place in the last 2 years as well. I don't want to say either of them are done, but my God, if they continue like this, people might be starting to call for their heads. And that's a good lead into the next conversation, because the real question is who does Konstas come in for now that he is performing? I feel like Konstas would be knocking on the door whether Australia does well or not, but it's especially relevant now after Australia absolutely embarrassed themselves. Let's go through who's at risk. Now, Nathan McSweeney is the first guy who comes to mind. He's only played 1 match, which was that match in Perth, and he only scored 10 runs across 2 innings, getting 10 in the first and a duck in the second. Not a good start, but it was his first match and everyone did poorly, so you can't really blame the lad. But let's be real, this experiment did not work. I feel really sorry for McSweeney and I'm worried about where this series is heading for him. This is because McSweeney is not an opener. This guy, prior to this summer, had never opened in a professional cricket match. Think about that. This guy is being asked to learn how to open playing for Australia. And it's not just any Australian series. It's not like they're versing Ireland or the West Indies. They are playing India, who are at the peak of their powers right now. This failure is not on him. He is trying his best, but really it lies on the selectors, in particular, George Bailey. I feel like this was the wrong decision to make and is a recipe for disaster. It was a wrong call to make. Nathan McSweeney is a fantastic player and will be a great player for Australia one day, but he was only just starting to get the runs rolling. He's still relatively inexperienced and he's got a decent run of form in the Shield, in the domestic scene, but it didn't last that long. I feel like this guy should have been left in the Shield for another year to build up those runs, get a bit more runs behind him, build up that mental game, and before you know it, you've got a class player who is still young, who will play for you for years going forwards in Australia's middle order, because that's his position. But yet Australia have put him to open the batting, and it's looking like he's going to fail. And then what, are they just going to drop him back to the Shield now with very low confidence? I just feel like he might go back and struggle, and that's really sad. And I feel like that is a real irresponsible thing for Australia to have done. Meanwhile, you have Konstas here, who, yes, is young and experienced, but he is an opener first and foremost. I said this in a previous video, but if you were to put Konstas into the Australian side and then drop him, at the end of the day, even if he has a hitting confidence, he's only 19. So you could wait until 2030, putting him back into the Shield, all the rest, put him in county cricket. He would have built up 5-6 years more experience, and he would be the same age that McSweeney is right now. And to me, that sounds like a win-win scenario. So that's why I think Konstas also should be opening the batting. That's just another little added benefit alongside the fact that he's got the runs, he appears to be good enough, and he is an opener, most importantly. Since McSweeney has been selected, I feel like dropping him would be the wrong call because he is a star for the future. What I think they should do is they should put McSweeney down the order to 3 or 4, let him come in a bit after the openers have done their job, and play him in his actual position. This will be good for his confidence because he knows how to play there, and it will give him a go in a position that he will likely hold in the future. So if McSweeney was to be pushed down the order and Konstas put opening alongside Khawaja, who needs to be dropped then? Well, if we look at who is in the Australian side, you have one glaring face who hasn't been performing recently, and that is Marnus Labuschagne. After an embarrassing performance with the ball where he employed illegal negative bowling tactics after bowling rubbish medium pace all test, Marnus hit a total of 5 runs across his 2 innings in Perth. And it's not like he was playing on a particularly unknown surface. He was playing in Perth, which prior to this test, he'd averaged over 102 at. So this guy knows how to bat here. And this lack of performance with the bat, not only the ball, but particularly the bat, has come after a real string of bad performances. As I said earlier, since the Christmas of 2022, Marnus has only hit 1 century. Where has this come from? This guy was killing it earlier in his career. Between 2019 and 2022, this guy was unstoppable. But it's just really dried up for him, these runs. In the last 10 innings, he's only hit 1 score above 50. So I think Konstas should come in for Labuschagne. McSweeney is dropped to 3, and Konstas opens the batting alongside Usman Khawaja. But that won't happen in the Adelaide test. So we'll just have to see what happens in the Adelaide test, and we can talk about it further from there. Hopefully, both McSweeney and Labuschagne score runs, which will make it a more difficult conversation. But I look forward to that. Until then, though, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate you guys sticking around. And yeah, subscribe. We're getting some good feedback on our first 3 videos. Go check them out if you haven't already. Cheers, guys.